Good afternoon, everybody. It is Tuesday, so it's time for our family support Q&A, and I'm really pleased to let you know that today our guest is Mary Turner, who is the director of Missouri Family to Family. And for those of you that are not familiar with Missouri Family to Family, there are so many great things happening in this organization. It's a statewide organization, but sometimes because they operate in Kansas City, we are not as in the know as we should be. So Mary's going to catch us up. So without further ado, Mary Turner, thank you so much for joining us today. I was hoping you could start off telling everybody a little bit about you and your family.
Okay, so my name is Mary Turner. I'm super happy to be with you today. I've been able to work with Sharon over the last couple of months, and she's a dynamite, and I love every time that I get together with her. So I have a very unique family. I have a 35-year-old daughter who is working very hard within the disability community. I have a 34-year-old daughter who was born at 3.5 months premature, and she has just a whole list of disabilities. I call them abilities because she is probably the most tenacious person I've ever met in my life. She's taught me more than I ever wanted to know, to be honest with you. And then God has a funny sense of humor. And I have a 16-year-old teenager who is a junior in high school right now. And I've been married for 37 years to probably the greatest man God ever put on this earth because he tolerates me. And we have, let's see, 3 dogs currently and 4 cats, no fish.
Wow. Does that mean fish are on the horizon?
No more animals.
All right. Well, it sounds like you've got your plate full. And even though you've got your plate full, you decided to come and work at Missouri Family to Family. And that's sort of a new job for you, isn't it?
It is.
Can you tell us a little bit? First, I'd like to start off on having everybody understand a little bit more about what Missouri Family to Family is.
Well, Sharon, like you said, it is a statewide organization. It is one of the multiple organizations throughout the nation that are either family to family or parent to parent or family voices. They all go under a variety of different titles, if you will. And we are set up to be an information center, a resource center for families and individuals that have disabilities. And within that resource center, we offer probably 5 major components, which would be information and referral. That would be if a family member has a question that they need just a quick answer to, they would call us, we would provide them with that answer and maybe make a referral, help them get connected with services. Our second component is our navigation. That's typically where a family member has a concern, but they need a little bit more of a hand-holding opportunity to really find out what they need to do, maybe understand a new diagnosis, figure out how to transition in life. Maybe their caregivers are aging and they need some assistance. So that can take on the form of 45 minutes to an hour phone call, a Zoom meeting, an email exchange, as long as it can even range up to 8 weeks of time with a family. And then our final kind of core programs, if you will, is our peer matching. So these are individuals who have a lived experience, and what we do is we match those family members who need some more help. They need someone to kind of walk along with them on their journey. We match them with another family who's gone through similar things to help them stay connected and be involved with their planning. Typically, those 3 components, we use the Charting the Life course as our basis for how to help a family plan. Additionally, we are very involved in developing some family leadership. So if a family member would want to become more involved, to become a navigator, to become a peer, to become a member of a committee or a special health group, then we help to train them to become the family leaders that we know that they can be, so they can have a voice in our disabled community. We also do education for both professionals and family members, and we have multiple different avenues that we do that in. We hope to actually have a family conference in spring or summer of next year, and we'll be inviting all of you to participate in that. In addition to that, we are doing a lot of research and dissemination of information throughout the state of Missouri.
That is a lot for us to take in. I'm glad you mentioned research because I think that's one of the cool things about Missouri Family to Family is that it's under the umbrella of the IDDRC at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. Every state has an organization that is dedicated to best practices and research around intellectual and developmental disability, and ours is in Kansas City. So it provides a lot of really cool opportunities, not only for us to take advantage of really growing family support services, but having some data to back up why it's important to do that. So we already have a couple questions, but before we get to them, I'm curious, with everything you've got on your plate, Mary, what made you decide to join Missouri Family to Family?
That's a very interesting question. I thought that I had gotten to the end stages of my adult vocational career and had decided I was going to take it easy for a little while. But then what I really found out was that I missed administration and I missed working with other individuals. And really being part of a team and a collaborative effort. And so I decided that, when this position became available, that it was right up my alley. My heart is with the disabled community. And so I applied and here I am.
Well, we're really glad to have you here. It's been fun to get to know you and to work with you. So I think one of the things that that people are really curious about is peer matching, because that's one of those unique programs that I don't think we've been able to pair families up occasionally when we find that there's a similar diagnosis or a similar life experience and a family wants to connect with somebody else. But you guys have a really formalized program for that. So I want to make sure people understand how that works. And we already had a question about whether or not the family would be local to me. So can you talk a little bit about the matching process and how you put families together?
I'd be happy to. So currently, we have had at one point in time as many as 400 individuals that were on our peer matching list, if you will. But when I came here, one of the things I wanted to have happen was to kind of tighten that list and see if those individuals were still wanting to be involved. And currently, we have 150 people that are 150 individuals that are committed to be peer mentors. And we look at that from a variety of different points, if you will. Where are they geographically in relationship to the family we might match them in with? Have they had a similar or shared life experience in terms of diagnosis or aging process or transition process? So we look at the variety of different things and needs that the family members might have that are requesting a peer match. We go through our list and match it as closely as we can. We send out an opportunity request to our peer mentors. They then make a commitment to work with the family based on the needs of the families, and we connect the two of them together to communicate through the phone or through email or Zoom. So it's not just, we're not going to just go into a fishbowl, if you will, and pull out a name. We are very deliberate about how we match families together.
I like that. And I think sometimes, it's really important to have somebody that's navigated the same school district. But if I've got a very unusual diagnosis or something else, it might be more important for me to meet another family across on the other side of the state that really is having the same experiences. So that's really cool, I think. How does a family get connected to that? What if I feel like I could really benefit from a peer mentor?
So I believe that that Brianna is going to post how to get in contact with us. And all you have to do is reach out to either myself or to Georgia Mueller, who's one of our staff here. And we will work on, gathering information from you to find out what kind of needs you have, where you live, what the age group might be of your family members, how to contact you, and then we'll start the matching process. It may take a 15-20 minute Zoom meeting in order to have that brief conversation, and then we move forward with that.
And is that the same process if I feel like I have something to give to other families and I might want to be a peer mentor?
Yes, absolutely.
So what does it mean to be committed to being a peer mentor? Do I have to go through some kind of training, or do I have to say I'm going to do 20 hours a week? What does that look like?
So we have a formalized training, and right now it's all virtual. It's on a platform where you can do it at your own self pace. But before we're going to match you with the family, we are going to make sure that you have been successful in completing the hours of training online. In fact, it's fairly easy. We have in this past week had 2 weeks. We've had 4 different families who have said, hey, I think I would love to be a peer mentor. And so they are starting in the process of completing their official training. They'll receive a certificate at the end, and then they'll go into our pool of mentors that we can match families with. One of the other things that we're doing is through the Living Well grant this past year, we have been able to work for a year-long process with the family peer specialist. And that means they've gone through the Charting the Life Course Ambassador Series, they've gone through our Leadership Series, and that we've met with them each month, training them in various different educational components, with, if you will, not only the IEP process, but what might it be like to work with someone who has a mental health disability or co-occurring disorder, or how would you work with someone who has autism? So we have been very fortunate to have a footprint throughout the state of some family peer specialists that we're able to match families with as well.
We've got a question about what's the time commitment for being a mentor or a mentee?
Okay, so it can be as little as a couple of hours that you're with the family, because that's all the family needs, or it can be as long as 8 weeks. Typically, when we're doing the intake to find out what a family needs, then we find out for them we kind of help them estimate how much time they might need a peer mentor. Now, when I say 8 weeks, that may seem pretty daunting, but that means you're going to give them a call once a week and you're going to say, hey, how are things going? Were you able to go to that resource? Did you get that door opened to be able to have those services that your serving needs? It is also, and you guys are aware that sometimes walking through this world of whenever you have someone with a disability, you really need someone who understands, and all they need to do is listen. And so as a peer mentor, that might be what you do. So that 8-week time commitment means that you're checking in with them. You're providing them additional resources. You're there to give them a listening ear. You're there to really support them as they walk through some of these transition stages in their life. Again, it might be a new diagnosis, or it might be their child is struggling with getting started in school, or it could be that their caregiver is aging, or perhaps they're 14 and transition planning needs to start happening. So it could be an intensive time at first when you make a commitment in the first week or two that then levels out to a once a week contact with them.
Mary, we've got a question about whether you've got any success stories from the program. And I think they mean in regards to the peer mentoring. Have you got any stories you can share about how families really helped each other to problem solve?
Well, so one of the most successful stories, I think, is to share about someone who had a special healthcare needs individual. And it was such a very rare diagnosis. It was a genetic deficiency diagnosis, but there was 2 people in the state whose child had that genetic deficiency. And so we were able to link those 2 together. They were able to share resources both from a state and a national level. So those families were able to connect, they were able to talk, they were able to share about doctors, because no one knew about this particular genetic deficiency. And so it really helped them they could laugh and cry and share and talk and walk together. And then when they had to make the trips to come to St. Louis to be able to see their doctors, they could connect and say, I'm going to see my doctors today, say a little prayer for me. And that really was something that was supportive for each family.
So everybody out there knows that I am a huge fan of Charting the Life Course principles and tools. And I would love to hear you tell us, Mary, about your experience kind of becoming an ambassador and where you feel like those principles have become the most important for you as a parent, maybe.
So I tend to be a helicopter parent. And so it was super hard for me to think about letting someone else take care of my kid and meet some of my kids' needs. I mean, I have family members that could do that, but there were also community members and friends of mine that wanted to step up and wanted to be involved in my kid's life. And it was hard for me to ask for help, but more important, it was hard for me to accept that help. And so by using Charting the Life course and hearing my daughter talk about it, it took it away from me deciding all of the steps and all of the things that needed to happen, and it allowed her to say, but Mom, I would really enjoy it if Sandy took me to go volunteer at the Humane Society, or if Carol took me to go to my horseback riding, or, if we scheduled a little party and you didn't have to be part of it, you could just know that I was having a party. So the helicopter parent had to layer away a little bit.
You know what, though? Isn't that a great feeling in the end when you start to recognize these other people are there to fill some of those gaps? It gives you some freedom to breathe and know that whatever happens down the road, your daughter is going to have people that care about her and will care for her, which I think is what a great feeling that must be.
Well, and Sharon, when we were younger, my husband and younger, our kids were younger, I remember sitting and typing up all this stuff. I had to have all this stuff in order, and all of Sarah's health history in order, and all of the doctors and so forth. And I kept this notebook going forever what if something happened to us when we're on our trip alone? And then people would have that as a resource. Now it's a matter of helping them they join our plan, and they're part of it, and they can see it, and they can even suggest an update. So it's a very new age technology, wonderful, streamlined way of communicating.
Well, and it fits so nicely with this new Life Course Connect platform, because you can put stuff there, and your daughter really can reach out and say, hey, let's have a party, which is cool. Somebody asked about charges, and for the first year at least of this project, probably more than that, we've been able to use the Living Well grant funding, which is amazing, to pay for that. So there is no cost to families. Is there a cost to families for any of the other services you offer through Missouri Family to Family?
No, absolutely not. We're funded totally. So none of our services are a fee for service. We're just here as a resource center to help families and individuals.
Right. So what else do you want our families in St. Louis to know? Is there something that's happening over in Kansas City that you think, man, I want to make sure that gets all the way over to the other coast, as it were?
I think the biggest thing is looking forward to a family conference. And so if your families can send me information about, hey, as you plan a family conference, I'd really like you to teach on XYZ, or I'd really like to hear this speaker, or I'd really like to see whatever it might be, benefits or a particular planning method, or an encouraging speaker. I'd really love to hear that kind of information, because that's going to go statewide.
I do want to kind of put that out into the universe too. I think Missouri Family to Family did a really nice job during COVID of sharing a lot of resources and information that is really important. So great. And I just want to give you a tip of the hat too in regards to equity. You guys have done a great job of outreach to the Spanish community as well. I know you've got some staff that speak Spanish. Your documents have been adapted, translated, and I think that's really important. I think Mary and I really, really want you to join us to at least learn about Life Course Connect. As she said, there's no cost to you. So if you think that this is a platform and a resource that you'd like to try and play around with for a year and see if it works in your life, we'd really like you to connect with us. Our goal, our hope is that this could be something that might be part of funded services down the road, but we really need families and individuals with disabilities to try it. Let us know how it works. Let us tweak it so it works better for you. And then it would give us the information we would need to move forward with advocacy. So thanks for coming, and let's do this again in a few months, and we can share success stories from Life Course Connect.
I would love that. And if any of you that are listening have family members who aren't being served right now by the ARC, and we could be a resource to help you have them get connected appropriately, please reach out to us through our emails, through our phone, however it is you need to connect us, and we'll be happy to meet with you and serve you any way we can.